Hello everybody and welcome back to yet another Logan Blackman Show YouTube video, and as you can probably tell by the title, this one will be going over the United States 2026 World Cup squad prediction. And before we get into anything that we're going to talk about this, I have to clarify, this is not what I would do. Okay, this is not like Logan Blackman's grand old 2026 World Cup squad prediction. This is what I think Mauricio Pochettino will do for the 2026 World Cup, which ironically is exactly the World Cup final is exactly 1 year from today. 1 year from today. So from this time next year, we'll be seeing the United States lift up the World Cup trophy on home soil. Probably not. But for this video, again, I want to go over each and every position, predicting the 26-man squad for the 2026 World Cup, and I'm sure this is going to make some people upset. I'm not sure. I know this is going to make some people upset because Mauricio Pochettino doesn't really seem to care all too much what you or I think about the players in the squad, and that he's going to pick the players that he feels are performing the best. As he said in a recent press conference, it doesn't matter if you were one of the perceived quote-unquote A-team members on paper. If you're not performing, you're not going to be in the squad. So it doesn't really matter if you play in the MLS, Bundesliga, Premier League, La Liga. It doesn't really matter where you're playing. He's going to pick the best players. And, you know, on paper, if you looked at some of the players that I'm choosing here and some of the players that I'm leaving out, you would go, yeah, they're not better than the player I'm leaving out. But that's just what I think Mauricio Pochettino will end up doing. And as we start off going through this position by position, we're starting off obviously with goalkeeper. I think the most obvious one to kick things off right now is Matt Turner. I know there's going to be some people that are upset that Matt Turner is like still the number one guy, and Matt Freese performed well during the 2025 Gold Cup, and he made some big saves in the penalty shootout against Costa Rica, but he didn't really need to do a whole lot in the grand scheme of things, and to a point where I'm looking at him like the guaranteed starter going into 2026. Now, I do think Matt Freese will be in the squad. I do have him as one of the backup goalkeepers in this, but in regards to an actual challenger to Matt Turner, I don't know if Matt Freese is the main guy. I think he put himself in a position to have that more conversation like we've talked about in previous videos, but to completely supplant him is that, like, you got to take it. Like, Matt Turner has not played well. He's not played well for club. He hasn't played the greatest for the national team. Like, the last time we saw Matt Turner play, he got shipped 4 against Switzerland. Like, we haven't seen him play that great for the United States, but he's been given the captain's armband on a few occasions under Mauricio Pochettino. And right now, is he the best goalkeeper that we have? Probably. And that's not a great feeling to have. But I think the main challenge, like, it was so weird about this Gold Cup and Matt Freese doing what he did. And I do appreciate what Pochettino was doing to make sure we know what our other options were. But Matt Freese realistically wasn't going to be the guy going into this tournament. Like, it was going to be Turner, Steffen, or Schulte. I feel bad for Steffen and Schulte at this point in time because both had to withdraw due to injuries. In the last game that both of them played, they both just shipped 3 goals. So neither one of them are flying that high right now. Obviously, Diego Koshin's still available. Gaga Slonina is an option. But I am going to put Zach Steffen as the third goalie. He might be the main guy going into 2026, and I think he is the main challenger for Matt Turner for that number 1 jersey. Like we saw in the Nations League third place game against Canada, had he not been sick, he would have been the one starting in that game. And had he not withdrawn due to injury in this Gold Cup, I think if Matt Freese was given a chance to start, I think Zach Steffen would have been given that chance to start this tournament. So the 3 goalies that I'm bringing here are Matt Turner, Matt Freese, and Zach Steffen. No particular order in that. You can order them however much you want, but I think those are the 3 guys right now that sit as the top 3 goalies for the United States. Obviously, Patrick Schulte can feel a little bit hard done by not going into the World Cup. Chris Brady from the Chicago Fire, who was in the 2025 Gold Cup squad, he can feel some type of way about it as well. We talk about Koshin, Slonina, all those guys, but I think those are your top 3 guys at this point in time. And moving to the right back spot, obviously Sergiño Dest, if he's healthy, is going to be the United States starting right back. Arguably the greatest right back in United States men's national team history. Obviously, Steve Cherundolo would have something to say about that. Fabian Johnson could even have something to say about that, depending on where you want to put Fabian Johnson in a all-time United States men's national team 11. But Sergiño Dest is so damn talented. He provides so much going forward. He's not the greatest defender, but he tracks back well. He's so skillful. He loves cutting in on his left. He loves taking shots with his right as well. Like, he's just a very attack-minded fullback, and I'm excited to see him back in the squad. We saw it. He just picked up an injury for PSV in one of their friendly games, but he just provides so much for the United States down that right back, at that right back spot, that not a lot of other players within this national team pool really provide. And I think what Pochettino wants from his fullbacks is pushing up the field, providing that extra width. That's what he wants from his fullbacks, and Dest provides that in loads. He does it all the time. That's what his best thing is. In regards to the other right back, obviously Joe Scally is going to be one worth mentioning there. You've also got Marlon Fossey in there as well, who plays for Standard Liège over in Belgium. We saw him in the Nations League roster, but I think the guy he's going to bring is going to be Alex Freeman. We talked about pushing forward, and on paper, this is one of the things I talked about before, where on paper, Joe Scally is pretty cemented, as one would assume, as the number 2 fullback in regards to fans' mindset. Like, if you're talking about ranking the right backs for the United States at their disposal, you would go Dest and then Scally. But under Pochettino, Scally really hasn't performed that great. He's good. The best time we've seen him perform is when he's lined up in the back 3 at that right-sided center back. But going forward as a right back, he doesn't really have that same output. And they've tried to play him at left back as well. He doesn't provide that same width and doesn't hold the width and doesn't go up the pitch as much, which leads me to think that Alex Freeman, who is a more attack-minded fullback, who I don't really think put a foot wrong in the Gold Cup. Where Scally, you look at the Nations League, you look at games like that where he struggled a little bit in those games. You could say he was playing out of position as well, but I think for Pochettino's mindset, again, personally, I think Scally's the second best right back the United States has. But I think from an attacking output, from what Pochettino is looking for in a fullback, I do think Alex Freeman is that. We saw him push further up the pitch throughout the Gold Cup. He started playing a little bit further back at the beginning, but he allowed him to push further forward. And yeah, he's very young. He was the youngest player in this Gold Cup squad, but I think there's a high ceiling there, and I think he could be the second right back in this World Cup squad. And moving over to left back, Anthony Robinson, Jedi Robinson, one of the best fullbacks in the Premier League, let alone in the United States setup. You could make an argument that this past season, that he was the second best left back, or the best left back, my bad, in the Premier League this past season. He had 10 assists to his name. He captained Fulham on a few occasions this past year. Obviously, you got Milos Kerkez in there, who's now going up to Liverpool. Like there, Gavardiol from Manchester City as well. Cucurella could be mentioned in there, but Anthony Robinson was just so good for Fulham this past year, and he's been linked with moves to a bigger club in the Premier League as well. He's just so integral to the United States in regards to that left back spot. You could say, in regards to importance to the starting 11, that he is the most important player to the United States men's national team, because the left back depth is not that great. It just isn't. Like we've talked about before, like recruiting Nathaniel Brown from Eintracht Frankfurt. At this point in time, that doesn't really seem that likely that that's going to happen, and that's annoying. And he's playing well for club level. So if you're playing well for club level in Germany or a German national, like in Germany, realistically, unless I'm like David Raum for RB Leipzig, who is their main left back at this point in time? I could be completely forgetting somebody. But at this point in time, you could really make an argument that he could be a eventual starter for Germany at that position. So I don't really think the United States is going to push for that. You got Caleb Wiley over at Chelsea, who could be an option there as well. We talked about Tim Ream playing at left back a little bit. We have John Tolkien, who was in the 2025 Gold Cup squad. We have DeJuan Jones, who was originally in the squad, but he had to withdraw due to injury, a right-footed left back. But I do think, and this is going to piss some people off, I do think that Mauricio Pochettino will bring Max Arston to the 2026 World Cup at this point in time. Obviously, he's a much better wing back than a natural left back. His defensive output is not very good. Some would even say it's bad. But going forward, he provides a lot. Like we talked about with Dest cutting in on his left, he loves to cut in on his right and take shots. He does provide a good attacking outlet from that position. Is he a bad defender? To a certain extent, yes. I don't want to say like he's a horrific, terrible, bad, all that defender, but he's a very suspect defender. He's an optional defender, some could say. He's a more natural wing back than he is a left back. And I do think it's funny, though, that ever since he came back to the Columbus Crew, since the Gold Cup, they've been playing in a back 4. I don't know if that's to get him ready to play in a back 4 more, but they played a back 5 all the way up during the Gold Cup. But when he comes back, they start playing a back 4. I don't know if that has a correlation or anything like that, and they have played back 4s before. I'm not saying this is the first time this season they've done that, but I do think the timing is kind of funny here. And Max Arston, a lot of people aren't really big fans of him. I'm not the biggest fan of Max Arston, but Pochettino continuously turned to him as a starter, as a key player within this national team, and him hugging the touchline, him providing that width down the side, his attacking output, I think will get him in the squad, because that's what Pochettino looks for in his fullbacks, like we've talked about before. You see that at every single club he's been at, whether it be PSG, Chelsea, Tottenham, Southampton. He wants those attacking fullbacks, and I think those 4 probably provide a better outlet than some of the other options that we have. And again, I want to reiterate, I think Joe Scally is the second best right back the United States has. But I think at this point in time, Pochettino would pick Alex Freeman over Joe Scally. So the right backs is Dest and Alex Freeman. Left backs, Anthony Robinson and Max Arston. And we're looking at center backs. I mean, the starters pick themselves. It's Chris Richards on one side and Tim Ream at the other side. Am I confident in Tim Ream going into the 2026 World Cup as a 38-year-old? He'll turn 38 in October. Do I feel confident in him being the starter for the entire tournament? I'm not really sure. But at this point in time, like, there are some signs that he's getting older, and as you would expect, he's 38 years old. But he's the most consistent center back, apart from Chris Richards, that the United States has. There hasn't really been that guy that has gone in and taken the job. Like we talked about with Matt Turner. Like, has Matt Turner played bad? Tim Ream hasn't played bad, but Matt Turner has played bad, but no one's gone in and ripped that away from him. No one's snatched his chain. Like, Tim Ream is getting older, and you would think there'd be a younger player that could go up and take that spot, but no one has done that. I would love to see Noah Kai Banks for FC Augsburg come into the squad. He's 18 years old. We talked about in the last video where the new manager is excited to work with him. He plays on the left side of a back three. He's a right-footed center back, but playing on the left side of a back three would be a natural fit at that left side center back. But at this point in time, I do think that the other center backs the United States is really looking at for the World Cup, you're looking at the likes of Mark McKenzie, Miles Robinson, Walker Zimmerman. Joshua Winder would be another guy that I would love to see like integrated into the squad a little bit more. But I do think at this point in time that if Pochettino had to pick two backs, I think Mark McKenzie will be one, and I think Miles Robinson will be the other one. I did struggle between Walker Zimmerman and Miles Robinson and Cameron Carter-Vickers and Austin Trusty and all those guys. I struggled between picking those guys because we know the two starters at this point. We have a fairly firm idea of who the two starters are. But Mark McKenzie has been playing well for Toulouse over in France. He's pretty much been the number 3 center back behind Chris Richards and behind Tim Ream. And if you're looking at Miles Robinson and Walker Zimmerman, two guys that are two of the better defenders in MLS. I know Miles Robinson had an absolute shit show the other day, but throughout the season, he's been one of the more consistent defenders, and Pochettino has shown that he can play him at right back if needed. I think moving him over there or having that versatility, if you want to call it that, I think could be big for Miles Robinson in making the World Cup squad. So I'm going to have Mark McKenzie and Miles Robinson there. But again, Walker Zimmerman, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Austin Trusty, Noah Kai Banks, Joshua Winder. Like, there's so many center backs the United States could choose from, but I think those are the 4 that Pochettino has favored the most at this point in time. Because again, I'm going to reiterate this a bunch. This is not what I think. This is not what I think. Like, this is not what I think. This is not what I would do. It's not what I would do. This is what I think Pochettino will do for 2026. I think at this point in time, the 2 center backs behind Richards and Ream are Miles Robinson and Mark McKenzie. And I think Ream will be the captain if he's on the field. I think there's an argument for Chris Richards to be the captain in there as well, but we'll have to wait and see. So that's the backline and goalkeepers. Moving up to the defensive midfield spot, Tyler Adams is the main guy right there. He didn't have the greatest Gold Cup. We could tell he was still favoring his foot. He got injured in the game against Switzerland. He's been battling a bunch of injuries over the past however many years now. And the Gold Cup, as one of the guys where you look at as one of the first names on the team sheet for the A team, he didn't really perform to the level that I think a lot of us were expecting. He didn't perform to the levels that we've seen him at Bournemouth this past season. But like we've talked about 1,000 times, he is one of the first names on the team sheet, one of the guys in the running for the captaincy for the United States. Some would even say he should be the captain for the United States, but Tyler Adams, is definitely in the squad. Johnny Cardoso, though he didn't play well in the 2 friendlies against Switzerland and Turkey, and though he only played 11 minutes of the Gold Cup due to illness and injury, Johnny Cardoso is just the second best defensive midfielder the United States has at their disposal. He just locked up the move to Atletico Madrid, officially official, and with Rodrigo De Paul going to Inter Miami, I think this is a big move for Johnny Cardoso to get some serious minutes with one of the top clubs in Europe, because Real Betis went obviously the Conference League final. They lost to Chelsea in that game, but moving to Atletico Madrid, a club with that type of heritage and a spot where you could be the main star or one of the starters within that squad could be massive for him, and I want to see him get to that next level because he's played great for club level at Real Betis. We haven't seen that with the United States. And you could say that about a bunch of players that we have at the United States, but Johnny Cardoso is definitely going on at this point in time, though he didn't really do much in the Gold Cup. In the final one of the defensive midfield spots, I'm going to have Tanner Tessman. I know he wasn't included in the Gold Cup squad due to footballing reasons, but Tanner Tessman has been a guy that Mauricio Pochettino has turned to more than one occasion at either at the defensive midfield spot, the main number 6, or a guy next to the number 6. He's played well for Lyon in France. But Matt Turner transferring to Lyon, I think is a good move for him as long as he gets playing time before the World Cup. That's what he needs. I don't really care where the goalkeepers play, just as long as you get playing time. But Tanner Tessman has been playing very, very well for Olympique Lyon. over the past year. They avoided relegation. They did the what do you want to call it? They appealed it or something, so they're avoiding relegation, but Tanner Tessman, I think, is definitely in the running to be in the squad for 2026. And you look at the number 8 position, Weston McKennie is the main guy there. Obviously, he is. He's been playing fantastic for Juventus. He's their vice captain, which is insane to think about for a club as big as Juventus. I know they're in a little bit of a rut at this point in time, if you want to call that, but being the vice captain for Juventus, regardless of where they're at, is still very, very impressive. And he can play a multitude of different positions. You see, like, he's played at right back. He's played center mid, defensive mid, attacking mid. Like, he's played so many different positions for Juventus. And we've seen him with the United States. We've seen him play as at number 8. We've seen him play on the right. We've seen him play as a number 10. Like, we've seen Weston McKennie play a multitude of different positions. And again, like we talked about with Tyler Adams, he is one of the first names on the team sheet regardless. So he's going to be in the squad. The next two, I think, could ruffle some feathers a little bit, but the first one I'm going to talk about is Sebastian Berhalter. Berhalter's set pieces at the Gold Cup really made him stand out apart from a bunch of the other players that the United States has at their disposal, because we don't have anybody that can take set pieces like Sebastian Berhalter. We talked about the set piece that he had against Saudi Arabia where he found Chris Richards, and then the one against Mexico. You couldn't have really asked. Now, Chris Richards did have to bend back a little bit and do that, but from where he was out in the field to get to that point, it takes so much balls and confidence, technique and skill and all that great stuff to get it there. And Berhalter tries hard. Some of the things don't pan off, but he's running 100%. He's given everything all the time. So I think he's going to be in and around the squad. And Pochettino gave him a bunch of praise throughout the Gold Cup as well. We saw him play as number 8. We saw him play at the right wing as well. So I think that positional versatility that we've talked about before could be big for Mauricio Pochettino. And then we also got Luca De La Torre, who is somebody that started every single game in the goal. I'm blanking on the Haiti game. I don't know why, but we've seen Mauricio Pochettino. Like we talked about Tanner Tessman being a guy that he has turned to and trusted. And Luca De La Torre doesn't really do a lot flashy there. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. There were some games I forgot he was even on the pitch because he doesn't really get like insanely involved in the game. But some of the little things that he does, again, the effort that we've shown before, and the fact that he was in the 2020. Was he? He was in 2022 World Cup squad, right? I just blanked a little bit. But I think that depth piece there, we've seen him start at that position. I've seen people even say he'll be one of the starters next to Tyler Adams in that midfield. I don't know if I'm ready to say that, but Pochettino clearly trusts him. So I'm going to have Luca De La Torre in this squad for 2026 in those central midfield spots. Those are our midfield people. So defensive midfield, we got Tyler Adams, Johnny Cardoso, and Tanner Tessman. And the number 8 position, we got Weston McKennie, Luca De La Torre, and Sebastian Berhalter. And then we're going to go up to the forward lines. Starting on the right, I've been trying to figure out how I want to go about this, because Pochettino has talked about 1,000 times that Christian Pulisic is in that Christian Eriksen role. And the past few times we've seen Pulisic play for the United States, he's been playing on the right or as a number 10. So I'm kind of really trying to figure out how I want to do this whole thing. So because Timothy Weah has obviously played on the right for the majority of the United States men's national team career, and Pulisic's played on the left for the majority of his career. So it's a weird way of how I think Pochettino will go about it. But regardless, I do think that for one of the positions, we'll say the right, because I do think he's a bigger player. We could see him playing that quote-unquote Dele Alli role in the squad that we saw him play at Tottenham. We're going to have Malik Tillman as one of the players. I'm not going to narrow down a position here, but Malik Tillman is definitely in the squad. He's definitely one of the starters at this point in time. The Gold Cup performances that he had was the best player the United States had, barring maybe Chris Richards. Malik Tillman was a fantastic player. He scored 3 goals, had 2 assists to his name as well, got beat up the entire time against Costa Rica, but never stood away from a challenge, never feared anybody, battled through, fought through everything. He's a guy that's definitely in and around the squad. I'm excited to see what he does. We talk about Johnny Cardoso moving to Atletico Madrid. I'm excited to see what he does over at Bayer Leverkusen back in Germany, because remember, he came through Bayern Munich's youth system. He went on loan to Rangers. He's obviously balled out for PSV. But him in and around the squad, being one of those main starters, is, if we're talking about talent, was always on the cards, but I don't think anybody was really oh yeah, he's going to be a guy that we look to as a starter in 2026 or the United States men's national team at any point in time. But behind him, Yunus Musa, we talked about versatility before. We talked about Weston McKennie playing a multitude of different positions. Yunus Musa has not really played amazingly at club level. And there's been some suspect performances from the United States as well, but I think that versatility will be key in this squad. We talked about playing on the right. We've seen him play as a number 10 a little bit, and we've seen him play as a 6. We've seen him play as an 8. He's played right back under Pochettino. He's played as a wing back as well. I think that versatility he could provide could be big for the United States. And there's talks about him getting a move to, I think, Napoli in this summer. I'm intrigued to see where he goes, but he's one of the players where, like, if you talk about on paper, you're like, this is a guy that should be in and around the squad, but his club performances and his recent National League performances haven't really been there. But I do think that versatility that he provides could be enough to push him over the top to get him into the squad. I don't know about a starter at this point in time like we saw in 22, but I think him being around the squad is going to be a thing at this current point in time. And then we're moving to the number 10 spot. I'm going to have Pulisic here, just because Pochettino's talked about it 1,000 times about him being in that number 10 position. Do I think that's Christian Pulisic's best position? No, I don't. I think he should be at the wing, driving at defender. Now, we know Pulisic loves to cut in, and that relationship that he's had with Anthony Robinson on that left, where he cuts in and Robinson goes on the outside, has been awesome for the United States. It's been very beautiful for the United States, but Pochettino wants Pulisic to play more centrally, just naturally. So Pulisic will be in and around the squad. He was the SB Male Soccer Player of the Year, or the Soccer Player of the Year. The LeBron James of soccer, man. You can't deny him. You can't deny it. But he has played well for AC Milan. He was AC Milan's player of the season. Like, he's done very, very well since moving over to AC Milan. And we've talked about him playing on the right a bunch at club level because Rafael Leao plays on the left. So I'm intrigued. If he played on the right, I wouldn't be upset about that because he's played well there for club. So if he plays at the number 10, I hope this is a role that he adjusts to, because Pochettino seems to be pigeonholing him in that spot. So I hope it ends up working out for him, but he's obviously in and around the squad. And then Diego Luna is there as well. People have talked about Diego Luna taking the number 10 jersey from Christian Pulisic. That's not something that I'm really thinking of at this point in time. I think Diego Luna played well throughout the Gold Cup. We saw the 2 goals against Haiti as well. Playing on the left, he plays more on the left for club level as well for Real Salt Lake, but him in the number 10 position or on the right or wherever, because we saw him in the Nations League game against Canada playing on the right with Weah playing on the left and Pulisic in the middle. Like, he just plays with so much heart and passion that everybody just, like, he is the face, the figure of a guy that the world is going to fall in love with at the World Cup. He's just a guy that, like, oh, this is one of the World Cup heroes from the, like, there's one of those players seemingly every single year, it feels like. I don't have any at the top of my head at this point, but it feels like you always have players like, oh, like, okay, Memo Ochoa is a perfect example of that. Well, everybody knows Memo Ochoa, not for club level, but we know him from the World Cup. I don't think anybody could tell me where Memo Ochoa is playing right now. We know Club America, but he's been playing in he's bounced around all over the place. But he's an example of that. But Diego Luna with the tattoos, the effort, he's just got the vibe of people are gonna fall in love with him at the World Cup, and he's definitely put himself in a conversation within the squad. And then moving over to the left, Timothy Weah. This is a guy where we talk about Diego Luna snatching the number 10 jersey from Pulisic. A guy that people have talked about Diego Luna taking the starting job of is Timothy Weah, and he's been linked with moves to Marseille. Obviously applied his trade at PSG as at youth level. Obviously at Juventus now. He's played some decent games at right wing back for them. And some people are talking about the United States should play a back 3 and have Timothy Weah as that right wing back, or under Pochettino, we talk about attacking fullbacks. Maybe we have him as one of those guys that can go up the field. But Pochettino has liked playing him as that left winger spot where he can attack the defender and cut in on his right, because he is a natural striker. He did come up as a striker, so there's still that skill level there. He doesn't score a shit ton of goals or anything like that, but Timothy Weah on the left, I do think is where Pochettino will play him at this point in time, even though, again, like we talked about before, that he has spent most of his time with the United States playing on the right. He plays most of his club level on the right. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Maybe a move to Marseille could get a more permanent game time, because he's more of a squad player at this point in time at Juventus. Maybe that would get a move to where he can play more and get more involved with it. But he's, again, one of the guys you think of as a guy you'd start for the national team. And behind him, I'm going to have Haji Wright, because Pochettino has brought Haji Wright around for a few camps now, and Haji Wright can play as a striker and as a left winger. I think that versatility that we've talked about before is big, and you could say he's more of a winger than a striker at this point in time, but I think Haji Wright provides that spark of, like, cutting in and scoring goals. He's scored some big goals for the United States in the past. We talked about 2022. We talked about the Nations League against Jamaica. Like, he has had moments for the United States where he's popped up when he's a big-bodied player, can play on the wing like we talked about, can play as a striker as we talked about, and I think he's going to be a guy that could be in and around the squad at that left wing spot or as a striker. And before you say anything, before you say anything, I could tell already, Giovanni Reyna is not in the squad. And that's something that I really struggled with. And I hate the fact that Borussia Dortmund put him in their Club World Cup squad just to use him as like a show pony, because he barely played. Why was he in the squad if you weren't going to let him play? Like, let him go to the Gold Cup, get some much needed minutes for the national team. But Pochettino, we saw in the Nations League, choosing Diego Luna over Giovanni Reyna. And at that point in time, no one really viewed Diego Luna like that. We all liked Diego Luna. We all loved Diego Luna, but we didn't really look at him as like, oh yeah, he's going to be somebody that starts over the likes of Giovanni Reyna, who we have talked about before, being one of the most technically gifted and one of the most important players within this national team setup. But the fact of the matter is, he has not played for club level and has not had any consistent minutes at club level. There's been links with a move to Parma, which that's a move that I think would be great for him. Moving over to Italy, a slower league. We've seen players like Pulisic and McKennie thrive over in Italy. So I want to see Giovanni Reyna go there and get his name back in the squad. And this is right now. This is not me like if we were, I don't know, if Giovanni Reyna goes off and gets 10 goals and 10 assists this upcoming season for Parma, or if he stays at Borussia Dortmund, or if he goes to LAFC, which Lord knows if those rumors are true. Wherever he goes, I just want him to play. But at this point in time, do I think Pochettino would put him in the squad? I don't. I don't think he would put him in the squad. And I know that's going to piss some people off because of the likes of Sebastian Berhalter and Luca De La Torre, and maybe even Yunus Musa being players where technically you would not say they're better than Giovanni Reyna, but that's the fact of the matter at this point in time. I also thought about players like Alejandro Zadejas in there in the wing. We saw Kevin Paredes in there, Griffin Yao as well. Like, there's players that are very talented that I've left off the squad. We talk about Brendan Aronson's another player who has 50 caps to his name for the national team, but Pochettino barely brought him on in this Gold Cup. We saw him come off the bench a few times this term. We saw him start the game against Haiti, but Pochettino didn't really turn to him as one of the more experienced players in the Gold Cup squad. It surprised me that he was not one of the first names off the bench consistently. Paxton Aronson, his brother, could be another guy that you talk about is like who's playing ridiculously well at club level this past year for Utrecht. Like, I want to see him in around the squad. So I want to happen, but I think at this point in time, those are my attackers that I would say right now. And for the striker position, obviously, there's two names we know off the top of our heads. Valerian Balogun and Ricardo Pepi. Two people provide two different things. If you want goals and like a natural poacher, Ricardo Pepi's probably your guy. If you want natural movement off the ball, if you want the things that players provide off the ball rather than just scoring goals, Balogun is your guy. And Balogun's coming up, I think it was a shoulder injury for AS Monaco, so we'll see him back in the squad. Ricardo Pepi just got given the 9 jersey for PSV, so this will be hopefully a nice little boost for him as well. But those two guys, I think, are bona fide locks at this point in time. And you can go either direction for who you want to start at striker, because like I talked about again, they provide different things for the national team. So you could go either direction there. But the third striker here, and there's going to be a lot of conversation about who this third striker is. Some people may even have just Haji Wright at this spot anyways. Josh Sargent is going to be a guy that gets talked about a lot. He's been linked with a move to Wolfsburg. They've linked him to Burnley and Leeds. The Wolfsburg move seems to be a little bit more concrete than everything else. You've also got Damian Downs, who locked up to move to Southampton this past year, or a couple days ago. But the main guy that I'm looking at this point in time is Patrick Aubameyang. And this is not me like championing Patrick Aubameyang again. I'm not sitting here going like I would bring him. At this point in time, I would not bring him. I still think there's some development to do with his game to get him to a level to where we can look at and go confidently that he should be a guy for the 2026 World Cup. But at this point in time, Pochettino started him every single game. And when people were like, we need to see Damian Downs play, he kept going with Aubameyang. Aubameyang just got locked up a move to Derby County in the championship, so we'll see if that move works out for him. But I think that at this point in time, Pochettino would choose Patrick Aubameyang as the number 3 striker for the 2026 World Cup. Do I agree with that? Not necessarily. I would love to see Josh Sargent in and around the squad. Damian Downs, I think, could provide some nice things in and around the squad. I'm probably forgetting a few people in there as well, but Aubameyang just seems like the guy that Pochettino would turn to. He really does, and I know that's going to upset some people, but that's what I think he'll bring, and I think that's what the squad will look like. So, reminder, in net, we have Matt Turner, Zach Steffen, and Matt Freese. At right back, we have Serginho Dest and Alex Freeman. Left back, we have Anthony Robinson and Max Arfston. Center backs, we have Chris Richardson and Tim Ream as the starters, and Mark McKenzie and Miles Robinson as the backups. In the number 6 position, we have Tyler Adams, Johnny Cardoso, and Tanner Tessman. At the number 8 spot, we have Weston McKennie, Sebastian Berhalter, and Luca De La Torre. On the right, we have Malik Tillman and Yunus Musa. In the number 10 position, we have Christian Pulisic and Diego Luna. On the left, we have Timothy Weah, and Haji Wright. And up top, we have the likes of Balogun, Pepe, and Patrick Agyemang. And I know some people are going to be really upset that this squad came out like this, but this is just what my gut tells me Pochettino would do. Again, I'm going to reiterate, this is not what I would do for the World Cup. This is what I think Pochettino will do. So before anybody gets mad at me in the comments for predicting the squad like this, it's not my job to name a World Cup squad. It's not my job. I don't want that job. I'm perfectly content with just predicting it because that's way too much pressure, as I see on social media all the time. But that is my 2026 World Cup squad prediction. Here's the, I don't know which side, but squad numbers. I'm going to throw a starting 11 up here at some point as well. But yeah, that's my squad for the 2026 World Cup. And I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with it, and that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. I'm not the biggest fan of it myself, but that's just what I think Pochettino will do. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. Whether you like the squad, hate the squad, love Pochettino, hate Pochettino. What are your thoughts about the 18 players that withdrew from the Gold Cup? What are your thoughts about the players like Luna, Tillman, Chris Richards, Matt Freese, about guys that performed really well at the Gold Cup? What do you think about Agyemang and Arvston being included in the squad? Let me know everything down in the comments below. Make sure to also check out all the links down in the description below. But most importantly, make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already so you don't miss any more fantastic content here on the Logan Blackman Show. And yeah, that's all I've got for you today. If you enjoyed the video, again, give it a thumbs up. But if you didn't, I sincerely apologize. I will try to be better next time, and I will see you guys later. Peace.